Hi, I'm Roy, and this is Yard of Random Books, Yard of Random Books, where I'm working my way through this set of old hardbacks that were being sold purely as shabby decor to see what happens to my mind if I actually try to read them all. And also going to be delving into Garb August, which is a month of reading trashy books. So kind of two for the price of one. Starting with, from my forgotten hardback collection, what I pulled down Mr. Midshipman Hornblower by C.S. Forester. Old red, slightly faded hardback dating from 1951. When I found this, at first there was just that nanosecond of thought that maybe this is a valuable book, but then I saw the dreaded words reprint society. So a bit like book club associates, it's kind of a cheap edition of the book that came out shortly after the real book. So book clubs reprints are almost always completely valueless. Um, there's the odd exception like James Bond, but basically no. So never mind, I still wanted to read it because I've seen Hornblower on the telly. As it happens, we've been watching some DVDs of him and was curious about the books. I thought they were older. So it was actually, this is the first of the series, so that's a win. Came out in 1950, and I suppose because I thought they were even more ancient, I kind of assumed they might be a bit stilted and not so much fun to read. But no, it's a riot. Really enjoyed it. I will certainly look out for more in the series. I'd probably like to get nicer editions, you know, maybe some nice looking old paperbacks. I mean, why these reprint books are frowned upon, why it's ended up in a set of books that was unwanted even by charity shops, it's probably that. They're sort of, you know, they're fine, but they're a little bit basic. The paper's a bit kind of blotting papery, um, but you know the words are still there on the pages. They're fine as reading copies. I'm not quite sure what I'll do with this. Like I say, I need the space back, so I'm also trying to find a sort of fate for these books that moves them on. I kind of enjoy it. I enjoy the cover as a sort of piece of abstract art with its weird fading. It's got a bit of a Mark Rothko look, I suppose. Although you know that's the kind of enjoyment that doesn't last very long. I like the fact that the Reprint Society has a logo of the signs of the zodiac, so some weird connection there between reprints and astrology. Haven't quite figured that out. Also learnt from the list of other books by C.S. Forester that his hobby was making puppet theatres, and he's wrote a little book called Marionettes at Home. Yes, so, but an action-packed read. I guess what's appealing about this sort of nautical fiction is the enclosed world of the ships, the jeopardy, and it's a progression narrative, you know. So Hornblower starts off as a midshipman, pretty lowly officer, and he's going to work his way up through the ranks, facing all sorts of threats and injustices, both within the Navy and from fighting in the Napoleonic Wars. So that was my pick from my yard of random books. And as I mentioned, this is Garb August, initiated by Criminoli and a bunch of others. I'll put some details in the text panel on YouTube, whatever it's called. So with that in mind, I pulled out from my collection Fox, #1 in the series, Fox the Press Gang, as by Adam Hardy. So it's another Navy book. So this was published in 1971, 1972 by New English Library. So why do I think this qualifies as a trashy novel and therefore part of our Garborg as well? I think it's the week of looking at books that have violent and or sexual content. The tagline that has the word violent in it, it's the second word on the front cover, a violent and authentic novel of the war at sea, exclamation mark. It's the second word on the back cover, which says the same thing. And well, it's from New English Library, which kind of puts it in that zone anyway. It's thin, 112 pages, and really, apart from the stuff about it being violent, it's packaged a bit like an edge western or one of those kind of anti-hero series paperbacks of the time. In fact, very like an edge book. So the painting of Fox is by Richard Clifton Day, who did lots of edge covers, and you can tell he's kind of a. In fact, the American editions have a rather more potent tagline, something like Fox, the toughest bastard on the high seas. And so you can sort of see, you know, what we think we're going to get is a sort of anti-hero. So we're expecting plenty of action and that kind of queasy frisson of, oh, not sure about the morality of the hero. I'd say that Clifton Day, I love his paintings. He's fantastic. He can make people's faces look so grizzled that they look like inhuman. You know, like Fox here, his skin seems to be almost reptilian, or maybe it's like zombie navy. But anyway, you can sort of see where it's going. It's actually written by Kenneth Bulmer. So Ken Bulmer, hugely prolific author across loads of genres. His biggest thing would be his Dre Prescott Sword and Planet series of 52 books, which I absolutely love. And the hero of those, before he goes to the planet, is also a naval in the Napoleonic Navy. So it's obviously something Ken Bulmer knew about. So Fox #1. I love this. It's a series of 14. I would hope to get more. Probably not to the point of paying massive amounts of money for them. But you know, it's definitely on the if I see them I will get them list. This one, appropriately enough, you can see there's a sticker with the word lifeboat on it. Bought this from the RNLI charity shop on the Cobb in Lyme Regis in Dorset, which is also the scene, not the shop, but the Cobb is the scene of a particularly action-packed scene from Jane Austen's Persuasion, which unfortunately isn't a crossover with this book. It does kind of cross over with Hornblower. Now, obviously, Ken Bulmer is, you know, following the lead of C.S. Forester in this book with a sort of rather darker hero, and they kind of overlap because there are real life characters in both books. Fox, like I say, he's meant to be from complete like non-aristocratic background, so having made an even lowlier start than Hornblower, he's got the sort of nincompoop officers above him, volatile men below him, and everybody hates him. He's like a total outsider. And as is often the case, it's kind of bait and switch. You know, you think you're getting like the worst man in the world, but sometimes he does things that are kind of follow his own sense of justice and can be quite heroic. So love this, and extra bonus book, going back to my set of forgotten hardbacks. working my way through the inches of my yard. I guess I could have called it Yard Arm of Random Books this week. Also got the Boatswain's Manual from 1944. So this is a textbook for trainee sailors, full of loads of technical details about boats, and why it's useful in reading any of these, because these guys litter their books with technical terms and they don't explain them, and because it would take ages to explain what various bits of equipment and what procedures are. You just have to kind of follow along, or maybe but a lot of that stuff's actually in here, so did sometimes use it as a reference. It's really interesting because the language, what the hell is a smoke helmet, snatch blocks, snorters, preventer guys, all sorts of weird sounding stuff. What is a clump block? All of that I could if I wanted to actually learn those things. So it's a lovely little historical book. As for the final fate of this one, maybe I keep it as reference. So if any of those nautical references come up, I can always grab my old trusty boatswain's manual and see what it's all about. Or I could try and sell it. It's maybe people collect nautical ephemera and would want this. It was published by the Nautical Press. I believe there were loads of subsequent editions. This was the first one, so who knows. So that's been my week at sea, looking at nautically related abandoned books and a supposedly trashy novel. I'm gonna say it's packaged in a trashy way, certainly in a pulpy way, but it's too good to be trashy. Ken Bulmer clearly loves Navy stuff and Napoleonic stuff. It's got a great story. There's actually a really good twist at the end. Left me wanting more. I would sort of rate this kind of 80% as good as Sharp, maybe. Yeah, lots of plus points for Ken Bulmer, as always. Grateful to my yard for introducing me to C.S. Forester. Might not have actually read before, so hooray there. And I'm your man for any obscure nautical terms you need to know. Goodbye.